Hi, Dawn Lewis here with a Lawn Fawn project. We're using Love You A Latte stamps and dies and a stitched scallop die. For this, of course, you're going to need your stamps and matching dies, and this is the largest out of the stitched scallop dies. I keep them all in the same sets together. Acrylic blocks, Copic markers, adhesive. I'm using archival and my favourite things ink today. You could use Memento. A small pair of scissors. I'll also use large 10cm square of white basil, card base, blending card, and some Kaisercraft confetti pattern paper. First things first, make sure your card is up the right way. When I'm covering the entire base with pattern paper, I like to apply my adhesive first, and then I can match up the pattern paper in the corner and make sure it is straight up the edges. And I know I say don't use scissors, but in this case you've got a straight edge as a guide to follow, so it's not going to be wonky at all. Now, if you have either of these inks, they are both Copic friendly, so knock yourself out. I'm just using one today, stamping out one mug, one saucer, and one spoon. In hindsight, I should have cut this section off before I started sticking down my dies, and I had hoped to be able to put all the dies on at once, but I did get them a little close together, so I will run the spoon through on another pass through the die cutting machine. These dies fit very easily. Now, here is my new toy. I actually bought myself, ta-da, look at this, a big shot. I've upgraded. I'm in love. It's so easy to use. I love how these dies cut with a nice white halo. It's beautiful, and the spoon ran through so easily on that second pass. It's just a dream machine. I love it a lot. Okay, so Copic colouring. I've done this before and after die cutting. I recommend colouring before you die cut. It can be a little fussy to hold them down, these small pieces, but you know what? It worked. It was fine. I'm using R14 for my lightest shade. I'm only using 2 shades of each colour to keep it simple, and I'm putting in some darker shades here with the R17. Now, when I blended it out, it was kind of a little bit flat again, so I've just come back in with that darker colour, and because it's nice and wet, it's just self-blended, which is beautiful. And of course, the more you go over it, the darker it gets. For the tea or coffee inside the mug, I've used E31 and a little bit of E34 just for those darker shades. And for my silver spoon, I've really soaked it well with C2, and then come in the bowl just a little at the bottom and on the handle using some C4 to give the spoon a bit more dimension, which is super cool. I've put a little adhesive on the back of them and put those to the side. Oh, not before though. I put a face on the mug, and I used archival because it's a beautiful dark black. Now, this may be confusing, and if you need to, please pause it and look at it anytime. If you want more details, ask me. But what I did was cut one side of my square so that the scallops were centered, and then for each extra side, can you see how I've turned it over and I'm lining the die up behind it? It's so I can see that the corners are matching. I did have to do this 3 times before I got it absolutely right, but it's a great way to get a scallop square when you don't have any scallop square dies. So there you go. It came out really well, and the faux stitching's lovely. My little die cuts are going right at the bottom because I needed to leave room for the greeting to go at the top. The archival ink, let me tell you, this is textured basil cardstock, and it was a perfect impression. First time, absolutely impressed with this. It's a fantastic ink. I'm completely addicted to it. And that little faux stitching that the scallop die puts in, absolutely gorgeous. I really love how clean they cut. So now it's time to check your card is the right way up before you stick your pattern on. And here's where I did my trial and error. The first one I completely messed up, so I cut it off and it's on the side. The middle one is my perfect one. The one on the right is not quite perfect. I had to do a little tricky trimming. And for the card base, it's slightly different. See there on the right, because I was trying to use up the last of the pattern paper. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. If you are looking for Lawn Fawn stamps and dies here in Australia, I am stocking them at dawnlewis.com.au. I'll pop a link below. I appreciate your time. I hope that you will have a go at a card like this and have a crafty, super crafty day. Bye for now.